Oh, hi. Hey, welcome everybody, and welcome to our weekly show. We like to call it Three Broke Guys Handicapping. It's where we review one of the top racing cars from around the United States. Guess which one we're going to pick this week. We do select a four-way sequence from that track and attempt to come to a consensus on a pick four ticket. Thank you for joining us. It's the Kentucky Derby Trail, and you know what? We're going to stay right here in Kentucky. Hang on one second. You know what? I'm on the wrong racing card. If you can believe this. If you're a horse player, it's kind of like Christmas and your birthday all wrapped together. It's Kentucky Derby Day. Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. The Twin Spires has a 14 race card that includes 7 stakes races. The late pick four starts in race number 9. It ends in race number 12. And of course, they're all stakes in the pick four on Saturday. My name is Rich Sharp. Each week, I'll be joined by my friends and racing analysts. And unfortunately, one of our racing analysts, well, you might as well just call him Omaha Beach because Ray Torado is a late scratch this week. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, just like Omaha Beach, he has a displaced epiglottis or something like that. He can't talk. But our next handicapper, he's from the West Coast and his voice is working just fine. He's coming to you from his home in Temecula, California. Joe English, it's Derby Day. I've missed you. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thanks, Rich. And I'm sure there are weeks that people wish my voice was involved in some entrapped epiglottis. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
Life.
Uh, again, if Ray, pops in and decides, as always, handicapping the Kentucky Derby without Ray Torado is, my sandwich with just jelly all over it, no peanut butter at all. Miss you, Ray. I'm going to tell you that last week was, you know what, we haven't been on the air for now a couple of weeks, and that actually goes back to my fault. I won't even tell you what we did the last time. We are in a little bit of a slump, but it is time for a quick weather update from Louisville, Kentucky. Rain is likely, thunder is possible. Earlier today, they were up to a 100% chance of rain. Thank God one of my colleagues let us know. I think they're all the way down to like a 60% chance of rain down there at Twin Spires. There are a total of 14 races. There are 7 stakes on tap for Saturday. And for tonight, we are focused on the pick four that begins in race number 9 and it concludes in race number 12. Joe, the gates are locked and loaded. The outriders are clear, and the starter's ready to pop the gate. It's pick four post time.
Let's go.
Here we go. Approximate post time is 3:37 p.m. Eastern time, and if you can see me on the air, I'm waving my hand back and forth because give or take on that one. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there's a $2 million guaranteed pick four tomorrow at Churchill Downs. All right, race number 9. They are going a mile and a 16th on the turf. It's the American Turf Stakes presented by Ram Trucks. Grade 2, purse $400,000 for 3-year-olds only. 13 starters, and the morning line favorite is in post number 1, A Thread of Blue, trained by Kieran McLaughlin and ridden by Luis Saez. 3-1 on the Churchill Downs morning line. You know what, Joe? You're going to have to step in and pinch hit for Ray. You're going to hit leadoff tonight for us. Be scrappy. Look at a few pitches. Need be take one for the team. Could get us on base for the pick four tonight.
Well, it's funny. I think, Rich, this is probably, the Derby notwithstanding, of the sequence, I think this is probably the most difficult race to handicap. Because majority of these horses, they've all come out of either the Palm Beach, the Cutler Bay, or the Transylvania in their last start. I went, like I said, this would be a spot for me where I'd have to go deep. And honestly, I could go, and I would go about 5 deep, and I'm not even really confident that I would have the winner, to be honest with you, because I'm not including the Chad Brown horse, and
Ah,
I'm not including the Todd Pletcher horse
ah.
with the high speed figure. It's funny because the reason I guess part of the reason I'm not including Chad Brown's horse is because I watched his race at Tampa, and it was okay. I mean, generally, Chad Brown's horses generally they don't just win by a length. Unless it's like Sister Charlie who wins every race by a nose or a neck. A lot of times, especially with that first level allowance or the minor stakes race, they win by, comfortable margins, and he just doesn't seem to me to be that strong a type. Plus, and I kind of wonder, and maybe it's because I went through the races from today, and that Chad didn't win one, and I'm like, okay, well maybe the barn will be a little cold. Maybe this horse will be a decent price. So at least if you like him, and if you're just going to bet Chad Brown blindly, you'll get a decent price on the horse. Um, and in this race, I mean, they're 3-year-olds, they're young horses who haven't really had most of them haven't really had a lot of experience. And he obviously only has 2 races in his life. He's won both, but like I said, I'm kind of leaning against him. I went 5 deep, and the horse I started with is the 5 Seismic Wave. Um, Billy Mott gave this one time off. Um, he won his maiden race on the turf this year. Then he won the Cutler Bay last time out, and the ride he had was fantastic. Sadly, Brad Ortiz goes over to the Chad Brown horse, which I understand because that's where his bread and butter is made over the summer and in up at Saratoga. But Joel Rosario is pretty good, and he's had a little bit of a reputation with Bill Mott and a little history. So I think this horse, he ran well. This is third starter off the layoff. Mott's given this horse 6 weeks in between. It was 6 weeks before the Cutler Bay, and then 5 weeks now. So he's given the horse time to recover and mature. He was bet down to 220 favoritism off that. Not favoritism. He was bet down to 2-1 off that maiden win when he won the Cutler Bay under Irad Ortiz, and maybe that was Ortiz having something to do with it. But the horse ran really well. He weaved his way through the field, and he got up to win by a neck over a couple of the others that are in here. Um, so, like I said, I'm including a lot of horses, and that's the horse I went with on top. The second horse I went with was the horse right inside the 4 Marquis Prince. And the reason I went with Marquis Prince is because the horse broke, not broke his maiden at Churchill, but won a non-winner two lifetime optional claimer at Churchill. Yes, I know it was a field of 4, but at least he has some experience over the Churchill Downs course. Brad Cox gets his main man, Florian Giroux, back. And he's done well in races that were off, on not great turf. Won March 2nd on a good fairgrounds course. And again, the race that I was talking about earlier at Churchill Downs was also over a turf course labeled good. He didn't get through and didn't win last time at Gulfstream. And maybe that course was a little hard. Generally, towards the end of the Gulfstream Park meet, it's basically mostly sun beating down on it. The horse, maybe the course was a little too hard. Maybe it didn't help. Maybe he's got issues with his feet. Who knows? Maybe it just wasn't his day. And I think this course is obviously going to be a little softer, and I'm guessing he'll prefer it a little bit more. Third choice, I went with the winner of the Transylvania, the race I mentioned earlier, and that's the 8 Avies Flatter. That was his debut this year, the 3-year-old, and he's won 4 out of 5 starts. The only race he did not win was the Summer Stakes up at Woodbine back in September, which is a Grade 1, which was a race where War of Will ran second. So obviously there was a little talent in that race too, and his figures just keep getting better and better. And second start off the layoff, Castellano stays here instead of going elsewhere. So maybe he liked what he felt underneath him. And again, horse who didn't have to really ship very far. He's probably still, he's still at Keeneland. He probably is now at Churchill, but he didn't have to ship. He should probably just shipped in late this week. So he, obviously likes it in Kentucky. Won that race and has it. Castellano was winning everything at all the stakes races at Keeneland anyway. But again, he stays aboard. And of the horses that ran in the Transylvania, he was the winner and he ran the best. So I have to include him. I threw in the favorite, the 1 Thread of Blue. Sadly, McLaughlin lost his Derby horse, being that Heikel had to be scratched today. But this horse ran well in the Palm Beach, which was back in March. And what I found curious was that he and the horse that ran second, Casa Creed, did not come back to run in either the Transylvania, which was obviously the race that Avies Flatter won, and they didn't come back to run in the Cutler Bay, which was the race that Seismic Wave won. Generally, you have a horse that's in good form, you're going to run him every few weeks, and both of these horses, the first and second place finishers in that race, decided to skip both of those races and wait 9 weeks to run in another stake race. I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with running in a Grade 2. I just wonder why they decided to wait 9 whole weeks. At least the Thread of Blue worked a little bit more often than Casa Creed did, which is why I included him and not Casa Creed on my ticket. And then the other horse I included is the 6 Forevermo. He actually ran in the Cutler Bay, and if it wasn't for a great ride by by Irad Ortiz on Seismic Wave. Forever Mo would have won that race. I'm not sure how the track is going to play tomorrow. And of course, all of these picks are contingent on scratches. You just never know with weather and things like that. I know this is grade 2, and you're generally not going to, I wouldn't expect you're going to get a lot of scratches because of the track condition, but there's always a chance. But again, Forever Mo, ran decently enough in the Cutler Bay and probably could have won the race. Um, and the reason he's so far down on my ticket is because obviously all of his races have been in Florida. Antonio Sano really does a lot better in Florida than he does in a lot of other places. And of course, he didn't win the other races that he ran the last two, especially the Cutler Bay, where he got beat by Seismic Wave. So again, I went 5 deep, 5, 4, 8, 1, 6 in that order, and I could have easily thrown another 2 or 3 of them on my ticket, and gone really deep and used Ray's Keno machine while he wasn't using it. But again, you got to cut the line at some point, unless you're like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, and you have all the money in the world and you can just bet everybody. I mean, I guess you could, but this was a tough race. Probably, like I said, probably the toughest of the sequence, the Derby notwithstanding. So 5 deep for me in the American turf. Rich?
Oh boy. Well, I'll give you my top pick, and it goes directly contrary to what you just heard there. So I am on Casa Creed. This is my top pick for this race. I love me some Jimmy Creed, first of all, the sire here. Bill Mott as the trainer and John Velasquez as the combination there. So no problem with the connections. The horse finished just second by 3/4 of a length, as you heard there. A Thread of Blue got him in that last race. If you look at the switch in positions, so Casa Creed now is staying kind of in that same outside position. He was in post position 7 the last time. A Thread of Blue was in post position 5 that last time, now moves down to the rail. And I guess I'm hoping, or I'm doing a little bit of projecting here, that just that little bit of change in post position with the 3/4 length difference in finishing position from that last race is going to go ahead and be the difference, besides the fact that they are both been off for 2 months. So I did go ahead and put Casa Creed as my top pick in this race. To show you that Joe's not kidding, my second pick in the race is Avius Flatter. I do have the 8, Josie Carroll. Really solid trainer from up north. And again, Javier Castellano, I won't go into it too much there. 4 for 5 in his lifetime, and did win that Transylvania in the last time. I didn't stop there, Joe. I didn't see that there was any reason to stop in this particular race. I like War Film as well. I like the 9. I like me some Steven Asmussen and Ricardo Santana. We know what that combination can do in the Midwest, and we're not that far removed from it here at Churchill Downs. The horse did come out. He won his first 2 races, and he was gaining ground in that last race. That's the Transylvania coming up the rail there with couldn't quite get there. But again, I'm not leaving out any of those horses. As a matter of fact, to show you, just how crazy I thought this race was, and like that, I was telling a friend of mine earlier tonight, like that, I think I Love It by Prince. I Love It by Jay-Z. It doesn't really matter the artist. Of course, my favorite, of course, is got to be by the Beatles, but I really like the Black Album in this one. This is a horse that came over from Europe. We've got Jose Ortiz. I have absolutely no idea about the pedigree connections or the trainer connections here. I have gotten burned by Rudolph Brissett before, but I like the way this horse had it. I like the cut of his jib, so to speak, as well. I've got the 12 on my ticket. Again, Casa Creed was my top pick. All the way down there is to show you how wide open I thought this race was. I do have Digital Age. I've got the Chad Brown horse. I've got the 3. I've got the 5. I've got Seismic Wave. And I even used the 1, A Thread of Blue. Let me see if I can post these up here on the screen and make sure that I get this correct for myself. But so I've got the 7. I've got the 8. I've got the 9. I've got the 12. 3, the 5, and the 1. The 5 and the 1 for us. And I'm going to go ahead and try and bring that over just so folks can see. And I don't want Ray to feel left out tonight just because he can't talk. Let's see if we can't bring that back over. And for those of you who have ever been part of our show before, you'll know that Joe occupies the black because he's a Raider fan. And I'm down there in Dodger blue, and Ray has agreed to be our, off-season giant red and things like that. And in honor of Ray Torado, who's not here tonight, that it appears that both Joe and I have gone with Keno Machine. Joe, you went 5 deep, and if I can get my commas in the right spot, I'm thinking I'm 7 deep in the opening leg.
Like I said, Rich, you can probably go. Like I said, I can go 5, probably even.
You're like, I can do better than that, man.
I could go probably 8 or 9 deep, but at some point you gotta make determinate. You gotta make cutoffs, and
I agree. I agree.
Like
At some point in time, you must name that tune.
Toughest. Like I said, probably the Derby notwithstanding, toughest race in the sequence.
I hear.
No doubt.
All right. I'm trying to come back to you here without picking the wrong slide for some reason. I have no idea why that's coming up. All right. We are on to race number 10, and they are going 1 mile in the dirt. This is the Pat Day Mile Stakes. It's presented by LG&E and KU. Grade 3, the purse is $400,000 for 3-year-olds only. 14 starters, and the morning line favorite is in post number 10. That's Instagrand, trained by Jerry Hollendorfer and ridden by Javier Castellano. He is 6-5 favorite on the Churchill Downs morning line. Originally, the event was known as the Derby Trial Stakes, and it was held 1 week before the Kentucky Derby. It was first run in 1924, and every year since, with the exception of 1928. In 2015, this race was renamed to the Pat Day Mile Stakes in honor of the Hall of Fame jockey, Pat Day, and moved to the undercard of the Kentucky Derby Day. You know what? Ray is not here. Joe, you were kind enough to go ahead and hit lead off for us. So you know what? In a rare turn of events, I'm going to go ahead and take a swag at this one, buddy. I'm going to hit lead off here in leg number 2 and see what I can do in the Pat Day Mile Stakes. All right?
Right, sir.
Here we go. 21 and high. And in a stunning turn of events, for those of you who know how much of a chalk-eating weasel I have a tendency to be, I am not going to talk about Instagram first. My favorite, or my top pick, I guess, for this horse, for this race, is all the way out there on the outside. This is the Todd Pletcher horse. This is Last Judgment, ridden by John Velasquez, and Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez, just so you're out there, they hit a mere 30% together. Johnny V, not once what he was as far as the standings are concerned, but he's still one of the best in my opinion. He's been aboard for all 3 races on this horse, the last 2 which have been victories. He stepped up from maiden claiming into the optional claiming 62.5 level. This fits that classic 3 broke guys angle, Joe. So he's moving up in class from his last start. I am not completely sold on Instagram in this race, so I was looking to go off the reservation a little bit, and I believe this might be Pletcher's chance for a win here in this last Derby sequence. So I am on Last Judgment as my top pick. I really wanted to toss him. I wanted to just leave him out and just go 1 deep here and be bold and be brave. I didn't feel quite that confident. Hollendorfer can train. He's got Castellano aboard for a reason, and Castellano came back to this horse. So he rode him in the Gotham, and now he's coming back for the Pat Day Mile. So I backed it up, but I only went those 2 deep. I just went 10 in the 14 in a 14-horse field. Who have you got, Mr. English?
Well, I only went 2 deep too, and I did what you didn't, what you failed to do. I tossed Instagram. I just
There you go.
I can't accept 6-5. I don't think he's so much better than everybody else, and I'm almost kind of wondering if he's not. I don't want to say a sprinter more than anything else. And I mean, I understand this is a 1-turn mile, so it's kind of an elongated sprint. The thing about it was, I mean, the races that he won at Del Mar, he won so easily, but the paces were really slow. He never really, I mean, he was barely challenged. And what's funny is, I guess, and I kind of wonder why they took Drayden Van Dyke off and why he couldn't have just kept riding him. But again, that's not my kettle of fish. It's up to them. I'm not sure he's all that. All that, I guess, is maybe the best word to use. So I tossed him altogether. I'm trying to get this pick four to pay nicely, really nicely. The horse I went with on top is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'm trying to figure out which one it is. It's the 7, Mr. Money.
There we go.
This is
Money
a
bag.
horse I actually liked in the Risen Star. Um, I remember because the Breeders' Cup Juvenile turned out to be a big, a big, what's the word, key race. Because a lot of horses, Game Winner, Signal Man, Nick's Go had come out and run decent races after that. And there were other horses, behind them that actually had won. So I remember liking him in the Risen Star, and just based on the way he's finished the last couple of races, maybe he's just not a mile and a 16th or a mile and eighth, or maybe he's just not really a great two-turn horse. Maybe he's better around one turn. Maybe he's getting better. He ran decently in the Louisiana Derby, ran decently in the Risen Star, and basically he was in striking position as they turned for home. Excuse me, which would put him really in striking position around the turn on in this race as well. Gabriel Saez gets back aboard after Adam Beschizza rode him in the Louisiana Derby. Brett Calhoun's obviously trained him well. He's been training reasonably well at Churchill Downs. Again, he broke his maiden at Churchill Downs, and he jumped right into graded stakes after that on the dirt. And maybe this is, he gets a little bit of class relief, and I think it's a trip that he's probably going to enjoy a little bit better. So I went with the 7, Mr. Money, and I only went too deep, just like you, Rich, because again, being so deep in the other legs and the Derby, obviously, you want to go a little bit more than one or two deep. I went too deep. And the other horse I used is the horse inside of Instagram. That's the 9, Captain Von Trapp. Part of the reason is just like you mentioned earlier with Warfilm in the last race, the connections with Asmussen and Santana. They actually won a pair of races today. They won a stake early. I think it was it Shiza Julie? Like I said, I think they won a stake earlier, and then they won with a first timer to close out the card. I think at about 3-1. So that duo won 2 races today. So the connections are obviously doing well. What I also saw on the internet is that horses that were coming from the Midwest, like you mentioned earlier, like Fairgrounds and Oaklawn, seem to have it better than the horses that were coming from Gulfstream Park. Maybe the wet track, maybe the give in the track had something to do with that. Obviously, the Midwest is a little bit more known for the rain than South Florida. Maybe that had something to do with it. But again, this is a horse who's turning back, who was in decent. If you watch the first division of the Rebel, the one that Omaha Beach won, he was in decent position as they turned for home. He was the one who was closing and made, he flattened out late. And again, so this is just like Mr. Money. Maybe he's the horse who will like the mile and will like this trip better. And again, in this case, I like the fact that Asmussen gave the horse a little bit of time off. Obviously, he's been training at Churchill since April started. So he's obviously gotten acclimated. The wet track is not a problem. He broke his maiden over a wet track. Again, at Oaklawn Park, going 6 furlongs in his 2019 debut. So the wet track shouldn't bother him. Like I said, I'm trying to beat Instagram. And again, this is another, I went too deep. You went too deep. And who knows if we even have the winner amongst the 4 horses that we have. But like I said, I'm shooting for a price, and I want horses that are going to pay big balloons. I want this pick 4 to pay 5 figures. So I went with the 7, Mr. Money, and the 9, Captain Von Trapp.
I like it.
The Pat Day mile, and I just tossed Instagram. And if he beats me at 6-5, okay.
He beats me at 6-5. I'm coming back with you, man. All right, I am back, and we are going to move along there. Joe's got the 7 and the 9. I've got the 10 and the 14. I'm going to tell you right now, there's a little asterisk next to that 10 because I really like Joe's analysis there. So I think I might be willing to let Instagram beat me for tomorrow's money. Let's move along, and we are on to race number 11. And race number 11, they are going a mile and an eighth. On the turf, it is the Old Forester Turf Classic Stakes. The Grade 1 purse is $1 million for 4-year-olds and upward. 13 starters, and the morning line favorite is in post number 12. It's Bricks and Mortar, trained by Chad Brown and ridden by Irad Ortiz. They are 5-2 on the Twin Spires morning line. This was formerly known as the Early Times Turf Classic Stakes. It is now sponsored by Old Forester. The 1987 inaugural running was won by the 1986 Breeders' Cup Turf winner, Manila. Other notable winners include two-time Horse of the Year, Wise Dan, and champion turf course Sky Classic, Paradise Creek, and English Channel. All right, it's not leg two, but if you look back, since Wise Dan retired, we've actually had some trouble in this race as a team. And you know what? To defer to my colleague here in the final race, I'm going to give Joe first blush at the Kentucky Derby tonight. I am going to go ahead and stay on the lead, and I will go ahead and fire it up here first in the Old Forester Turf Classic Stakes, if you guys don't mind.
Go for it, man. Go get it.
Here we go. And on we go. Boy, if you're not on the favorite in this race, if for some reason you're not believing in bricks and mortar and he's all the way out here in post number 12, this again became an extraordinarily difficult race for me. One of the things I noticed was there seems to be a little bit of an absence of pace, and depending on that rain situation, I wasn't sure if we were going to get a yielding course or possibly even a soft course. I was looking at 100% chance of rain before we got on the air today, so I wasn't sure if the rain really came down and had soaked the course enough. That being said, Chad Brown's got 3 in this race. Let me just say that one more time. He's got 3 in this race. So I'm pretty sure the bobblehead doll, who you guys all saw there in the preview and like that, I'm pretty sure he's got this one covered somehow. I'm just not sure quite how, who he's got it with. I guess I will lean, the chalk eating weasel in me will lean again back to bricks and mortar. The horse has done nothing wrong since he came off the shelf all the way back in December of 2018. He had been sitting on the sidelines there for a little bit over 12 months. So he was off for over a year. He has come back. He won 3 in a row. Joe, I still remember us being on this show together. We were handicapping for the Pegasus Classic when you told us all that bricks and mortar was a 100% lock for that Pegasus World Cup Turf Classic. And that's exactly how he ran for the $4 million race, whatever it was they were giving away that day. And he came back and in a bit of a tough race. That race that he won there in the Muniz Memorial Handicap down there at the fairgrounds, that was deceptively tough. Mark it off, as you see there from the pace figures, he did really get a soft pace and was able to hold him off all the way until just the last few strides that Bricks and Mortar was able to reel him in. So unfortunately, yeah, I do have the 12 as my top pick here. I will tell you, because I am not only a chalk eating weasel, but I've also got a man crush on Chad Brown. Hence the bobblehead doll that sits in my office and looks towards my bed every night as I sleep. I didn't leave any of the Chad Browns out in this race, and I just chose to use them all. I've got Raging Bull. I've got the 2 in here. That's Joel Rosario and Chad Brown. The horse came off a 4th place finish there in the Makers, which was a grade 1. Had been out here and won the Hollywood Derby out here in California in Del Mar. You guys know what I think about the California West Coast races, but that's at least an East Coast horse who went back there and did exactly what he was supposed to do. And last of the 3 horses that's there is Ticonderoga. If somebody knows what Chad Brown is thinking, because this is the one that's got Chad Brown and Javier Castellano put together, as you see here, that's just merely a 43% combination when those 2 get together. If anybody knows exactly what Chad Brown's thinking with these 3, please drop me a line. Hit me up on YouTube here in the comment section, Instagram. Put up like 4 big smoke signals. I'll take anything that lets me know what it is that Chad Brown's going through his brain, because I don't know. I do know he's got 3 in here. I plan to cover all 3, and if I can, I might look for someone who's got a pace advantage in this race. That was the only thing I noticed, was it didn't seem like there was an overabundance of speed. I saw that Mark It Off again. He was almost able to hold off Bricks and Mortar there in that last race, and I wasn't sure if the soft pace here. I see Clyde's Image for Thomas Bush with Luis Saez. Saez is a fantastic on the lead rider, and again, if he can get a soft pace, that he can get away from Mark It Off. They've also got Prime Attraction to deal with, a West Coast horse who comes out, has got some East Coast stats there like that, but again, he's a bit of a speedball there, so I'm on the Chad Browns. I'm just using those three. Joe, what say you?
What say me? I'm going against bricks and mortar. I'm not using him at all. Um, Only because again, that morning line's off. There's in this field, I don't see any way that horse is anywhere near 5-2. He's going to be closer to 6-5 in this field. If I at least my opinion is that 5-2 is generous. I would have pegged this horse probably at around 8 or 9-5 morning line generally because they figure the dead money. Everybody sees all the ones. He wins all the time. He's won $3 million, even though most of it was in one race. Um, you know, he's not going to be 5-2. He's not going to be even close to 2-1. He'll be closer to even money than 2-1. Um, Something about him, the 12 post, why he's had so much time off in between races. And again, I don't know what Chad Brown thinks. The one thing I do know is that there are three different ownership groups, which is why he's running. Um, his owners want to run, and they want to be there for if they don't have a horse in the Derby, they want to be in a race on Derby day. So they want to be there, which is to me that's the only reason that he runs three horses, and this is the reason it's part of the reason he probably runs three or four horses in a lot of turf races is because the ownership groups are different, and especially like I said, on Derby day everybody wants to be there. So my guess is that they're all going to be there because it's Derby Day. That's what horse racing people do. They're not going to miss. They're not going to miss Breeders' Cup, and they're not going to miss Derby Day. Um, I did like one of the Chad's horses, and like Rich mentioned, I like the two Raging Bull. I don't know if he's going to get the pace setup that he wants. I expect that he'll be able to save ground. Um, like you said, he was closing last time. He's going to get an extra eighth of a mile. That was also his first race of the year, his first race against Older, and he's coming back pretty quickly, which for Chad is generally not his modus operandi. He usually gives them a little bit more. Usually, he's more like a 5 to 6 week situation, which is sort of like bricks and mortar. Today, he's coming back after a 6 week break. So the fact that this horse is running after a 3 week break tells me one of two things: either the owner wants to be there, and it doesn't matter how good or bad the horse is doing, or the horse is doing well. Chad's going to run him because he thinks he's got a chance to win. So I'm going to take the Chad Brown Joel Rosario combination. They're only at 31% for 2018-2019, so that's not too bad either. And I would take 5-1. And again, I'm thinking his horses are the other horses are probably going to go up in price because bricks and mortar is going to come down in price. So you might get 5, you might even get 6-1. But actually, my top choice is the horse on the rail, Bourbon. And yes, I know he hasn't won a race since the Baruch in September 2018. But there's one big difference then that he has going for him this time as he hasn't had in the last 3 races. And since I know Mike Smith did get a Derby mount at the last minute. He got the other Pletcher cutting humor. But basically, if he hadn't, this would have probably been his Derby mount. Again, he doesn't ride for Kieran McLaughlin a lot. But, he was in the mix in the Maker's Mark. I just think he's going to get blinkers tomorrow. I think his ride needs to be timed perfectly. And if there's a guy who's going to be able to do that, why not take big money Mike? 8-1 morning line, like I said, he'll probably drift up because, like I said, I just think everybody other than bricks and mortar's price is going to drift up. And I think bricks and mortar is going to be, like I said, 6-5 even money by post time. And the other reason I'm kind of going against Chad's horse is, like I said earlier, he didn't win anything today, and he had newspaper record at 1-5. And she got beat. And it wasn't like she got beat a nose. She got beat, I don't know, length and a half. So just maybe something Chad Brown's horses aren't run. I mean, and you'll know earlier in the day because he's got stuff that runs earlier in the day, whether his barn is clicking or not. So, like I said, I went too deep. I went with the horses on the inside. The one Corbin for Mike Smith and Kieran McLaughlin, who I guess basically this is his Derby because he lost High Cal earlier today to a foot abscess. And the second or third, I guess second Chad Brown, second string Chad Brown Raging Bull. So I went 1-2 in the Turf Classic, Rich.
All right. Here we go. Come on. You've got 1-2, and in that leg, I believe I had 12-10. And I am back with you guys, and we are here for the finale. Yeah, bring it up here. All right, we are on to race number 12. They are going a mile and a quarter on the dirt. It's the one we've all been waiting for. This is the Kentucky Derby. It's presented by Woodford Reserve Stakes. Grade 1. Purse is $3 million to 3-year-olds only. 20 starters, and your morning line favorite starts from post number 16. Game winner. Trained by Bob Baffert and ridden by Joel Rosario, is 9-2 on the Twin Spires morning line. Joe, you're going to have to step in because this was going to be Ray. It's the one we're all been waiting for, and you're going to be up first. Just, don't forget who's watching.
The doll doesn't scare me. Never has, never will. The one thing I do want to say is everybody the turf race goes off at 5:25. The Derby goes off at 6:50. So you can take a shower, you can go for a run. I mean, you can watch it too. I've been to Derby. It's an eternity between those two races. It just never seems to end. Anyway, um, yeah, it's funny. The complexion of the race changed when Omaha Beach had to scratch because of the entrapped epiglottis, and everybody feels bad for Dick Mandela, and I do too. He hasn't won a Derby, and especially when you haven't won a Derby and you get kicked in the gut like that, it's tough, and I feel bad for him. And God forbid if I ever see him at Santa Anita or wherever I happen to be, I will definitely give him my condolences for what happened, and hopefully Omaha Beach has a couple wins in the summer. Pascal Travers, maybe Jockey Club Gold Cup, and who knows, maybe even the Breeders' Cup Classic. Right? Heck, right now he might even be the favorite for that race. Um, given the state of the handicap division right now, I guess we'll have to see down the line. Um, so in this race, fortunately, they have advanced wagering, and right now the favorite is, believe it or not, the 7 maximum security is 9-2. I believe there were
Ooh.
two horses at 5-1. The two Baffords, Improbable and Game Winner, are both 5-1. Tacitus is 6, or maybe Tacitus is 5. Improbable 6. Anyway, those 4 are in that group, and then Roadster is 9-1. Um, and it's really hard not to use all 3 Baffords here. He this race. He for whatever reason he gets all the best 2-year-olds. He knows how to get them ready. Obviously, he's won the race 5 times. He's won 2 Triple Crowns. You can't knock anything he's done. His credentials are impeccable. Well, I shouldn't say that. He let's just say he's won this race a lot of time, a lot, and he's won a lot of Triple Crown races. He's if one of his 3 win, he'll tie for the record with 6 Kentucky Derby wins. A record you would thought would never be broken. So, I mean, I wanted to go with Game Winner. He just runs wide every single time, and he runs wide in 6-horse fields. He's done it at Santa Anita. He's done it pretty much everywhere he's been. He did it in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, which was a 14-horse field. I get it. I understand. That I get, but he's wide all the time. I wanted him to win. I wanted to say he's my top choice, but I can't based on the draw. I decided to go with Improbable as my top choice. He hasn't won a race yet this year. Yes, I get that. And he's by City Zip. I get that too. But again, City Zip has had horses who've gone a mile, more than a mile and a quarter and won. And basically, being that there is no Omaha Beach for him to beat this time, uh, he might be the one on the. He might get to the lead, as they turn for home. Um, the one thing you don't, I mean, he ran well in the Arkansas Derby in the slop, so that's not really. I don't think you can really say that's an issue. The blinkers come off for Baffert. I'm not sure why he put them on for the Arkansas Derby, but the blinkers come off, and from what everybody's saying, he's been training really, really well. He's very, well dappled out. Um, Irad Ortiz gets on board, and he might get his Derby here with Improbable. Game Winner's my second choice. Again, you can't knock anything he's done, and I mentioned it to Rich earlier in the week, I think, or it was late last week, that Game Winner's, he's a 3-time Grade 1 winner. Nobody else really in this race can say that. No, he hasn't won a race yet this year, but he lost by a half length to Roadster in a race, again, 6-horse field where he was 4 wide around both turns, and he lost by a half length at 1-2, and he lost to Omaha Beach in his debut after everything that went on at Santa Anita, closing the track, not being able to run, having to ship out at the last minute, and he finished second by a nose to Omaha Beach in his debut. So it's hard to knock him. Like I said, the biggest concern I have about him is that Joel Rosario seems to not care how wide he goes, and in a 20-horse field, that could make the difference. So he'd be my second choice. My third choice, I know, just like you with the Chad Browns, I don't have a man crush on Baffert, but just in this race, you almost have to. Roadster's my third choice. He did nothing wrong in the Santa Anita Derby. He got a really nice trip. He was able to save ground, and he got up in the last jump. Again, another horse who seems to be training pretty well at Churchill Downs. Coming into, they've all had only 2 preps, so they should all be fresh and should be ready to fire on Derby Day. But based on the odds, I also wanted, I don't know if I'm going to on my own include on my ticket is a horse who I think is being overlooked because of the, for whatever reason. Maybe it's because of the race he came out of. Maybe it's because of the way he runs. And that's, Vekoma is 22-1. And
there we go.
the race that he ran in the Remsen was probably the best mile and an eighth race that we've seen anybody run, especially as a 2-year-old. Omaha Beach, any of the horses that ran mile and an eighth on the Thorograph sheet, Thorograph figures, that was the best figure that, like I said, other than Omaha Beach and Improbable, that was the best figure to mile and an eighth. And he did it at 2. Again, 2 preps, so and less is more. Seems as if the horses that are doing better in the Derby and in the Preakness and the Belmont are prepping less early in the year. They do well. They run well at 2, and they come back and they run well enough in the prep races to get into the Derby, and then they explode on Derby Day. Again, like I said, Vekoma's 22-1. I mean, I saw by my standards is 14-1. Gray Magician is 28-1. I can't see how Vekoma's 22-1 and Gray Magician is 28-1 in the same race. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So, I mean, I would want to have him on my ticket at that price. So, if I, playing it on my own and maybe, looking at the win bets, I would probably place a couple of win bets on a couple of horses that are a lot longer odds than they should be. Tax is another one. Tax is 38-1. I mean, Tacitus is 5-1, and Tax is 38-1, and they ran in the same race not that long ago. The odds disparity is just crazy to me. So those are horses I would probably want to include on my ticket if I could. But again, you have to, budgetary constraints. But for win bets, I would probably take for value. I would probably bet Vekoma and Tax because they're 22-1 and 38-1 are just ridiculous overlays to me. When you got horses like Master Fencer is 50-1, he should be 5,000-1. I don't even know if the horse has 4 legs, to be honest with you. So anyway, so 5, 16, 17, and 6 for me in the Derby, Rich.
Let me see, 5, 6, 16, 7.
Yeah, 5, 16, 17, and 6 in that order.
All right. Well, I am not quite as deep as you, although I do have to say we actually have the same long shot choice. So I do have a coma on my ticket as a long shot, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to shave enough out of that first leg to be able to get back to him. My winner of the Kentucky Derby is the same horse I've been touting since last year. So I picked up. It's been the same story for me each year. Pick up on those winners of the races like the Del Mar Futurity or the American Pharaoh, regardless of which one it is. In this case, he came back and won the BC Juvenile as well. So, again, as Joe mentioned before, those are the 3 grade ones in a row that he won. It's Game Winner. it's Bob Baffert. It's Joel Rosario. That's the best horse in the country, and it's my opinion he's been the best horse in the country since at this age. I would say for this age category, since the fall of last year. He does have two losses this year. One, he shipped to Oakland Park. That was that little bit of a freakish occurrence that we had here in Southern California, where the Santa Anita horses had to kind of give up their home track because Santa Anita got closed, and headed out to Arkansas. And as you see there, he lost by a nose to what would have in all likelihood been the favorite in this race. It's Omaha Beach. He came back and won the Arkansas Derby as well. He got scratched from this race, as everybody well knows. And as you see there, again, game winner was just a nose. He went four wide. He was right on him. It was a very close race. He came back off of that in the Santa Anita Derby. Um, Personally, I thought he had it. I thought it was over. The fact that he lost to yet another Bob Baffert trained horse just goes to show you the brilliance of that trainer. Baffert's tough to beat. And if you are going to beat Bob Baffert, sometimes the way you beat Bob Baffert is with yet another Bob Baffert horse. And that's exactly what happened in the San Diego Derby. Again, it wasn't a bad performance. He finished by a half length off of it. I think Roadster could have some trouble trying to repeat that performance in the Derby tomorrow with as many horses as he's going to have to try and get around. And that being said, I think that game winner by Candy Ride, he's not going to have any problems with the distance, is your Kentucky Derby winner here for 2019. So I'm on the 16 because I guess I do have a bit of a man crush on the West Coast out here for Bob Baffert. I'm not going to toss Roadster. I'm not going to ignore what I saw there in the Santa Anita Derby. Ever since he's come back from that throat surgery, he has been unbeatable. He's undefeated in those two races. The only race that he did lose was that Del Mar Futurity to game winner, and now he's coming back. So. I wasn't going to toss him. I've got the 16 and the 17. And for the purposes of our show tonight, I'm actually going to stop at that point. I'm just going to stop with 16 and 17. You heard Joe touting on my horse a little bit earlier. The long shot play that I have for you, though, would be Vekoma. The 6 is 3 for 4. The only race that he lost was the Fountain of Youth Derby. That was the one that Code of Honor came from off the pace and won. So I went 16, 17. Joe went 5, 16, 17, 6. Come on back. And there we are. And let me bring over to you, and I will show you the two tickets that we have for tonight's show.
I think mine was $40, 5 by 4 by 2 by 2.
Let's see what we got here, Joe.
$40. Like I said, I'm tossing both bricks and mortar and Instagram. So if mine hits, it's
There's money involved.
time.
There you go. Payday. All right. And again, if you've seen our show before, then you might know that in the black, in Raider black, that's Joe. And in Dodger blue, that's Rich. And let's see what we got here. Joe went in the first leg. In the opening leg, he's got 5-4-8-1-6. With 7-9, with 2-1, with 5, 16, 17, 6. And you are right, Joe. For a 50-cent play, you've got what is that, a $20 pick for?
40.
40? Excuse me, $40 pick for?
5 by 4 by 2 by 2.
By 2. There you go.
Combinations.
Pop that up here for you. And down below, I could not come up to that kind of a sequence in the first one. I've actually got 7 deep in that opening leg. I went 7, 8, 9, 12, 3, 5, 1. I'm sure by tomorrow I'll pare that down a little bit, but for tonight's show, I've got those 7 up there. I've just 2 deep in the next leg by 3, and then just 2 deep in the last leg. I've got 7 times 2 is 14 times 2 is 28.
I think yours is 42.
42.
It's funny, Rich. Who don't we have in leg 1? Let's see. We've got 1. Okay, so the 2.
Why, you trying to figure out who we're going to bet to win?
Exactly.
You're looking for win bets.
You have the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9. Okay, the 2, the 10, and the 11. Oh, and the 13. So there are 4 horses that we would not have covered. 2, 10, 11, 13.
All right. Well, you saw them there. Those are your two pick four tickets here from the two out of the three broke guys that are left here tonight. And again, we're missing our buddy Ray Torado. Um, Ray, it's almost like a holiday for us here. This is Derby Day,
Get well,
and we most certainly miss you. Hopefully, you're feeling better. For those of you watching, if you enjoyed the show, well, I'll let you know we're going to be back. Yeah, just keep an eye on our channel. We love to handicap. It's what the three broke guys do. We're going to get together, take a look at another exciting car. I'm not exactly sure where we'll be, but as I said, if you keep an eye on our channel, if you look at our Facebook page, if you look at our Twitter feeds, I'm certain we'll let you know. Joe, I think that's all the time we've got for tonight. You know what, buddy? We have been handicapping together now for 5 years on Kentucky Derby Day, and it is always, always a pleasure to handicap with you.
days like this, or like you said, it's Christmas and birthdays in mid year, and 6 months from now, we'll be saying the same thing about Breeders' Cup. So,
Absolutely. All right. For
enjoy
Joe English
Derby.
and Ray Torado, who, of course, was not here tonight, I'm Rich Sharp. Thank you for watching Three Broke Guys Handicapping. Good luck and have a good Derby day tomorrow, everybody. Good night.
Stay dry.
Stay dry.
Kentucky stay dry anyway.